In 1996, Nintendo released the Third Dimension, and with the Third Dimension, the first video game, Super Mario 64. Everything that happened before this was just proof of concept. Now we finally had something to do other than beta test this dimensionally inferior garbage. But Super Mario 64's days were numbered, as a remake would release in 2004 for the Nintendo DS. But some games are too great to be improved. Sometimes 1,000 apologies don't forgive one fatal flaw. A couple weeks ago, I talked about how Super Mario 64 is better, but also deader than the original. Since then, I've had quite a lot of comments to read and time to think, and I've actually revised my opinion. I no longer think that DS is better than the original, but I don't think it's worse either. The main thing that I got wrong about 64 DS was just how bad the controls are. They suck. And if the controls suck, the platforming sucks. And if the platforming sucks, how good of a platformer is it? And if it ain't a good platformer, is it a good game? Well, let's stop being so philosophical and find out what's wrong with these controls, and if they could be improved. Well, one thing that people don't seem to like about this game is the run button. And yeah, it's not great. You've got to hold it down the whole time, and it totally cramps your hand up after a while. And I play on the 3DS XL, the original must be a nightmare. Plus, it just isn't in a good spot. You can't really dive without letting go of run. It's not that hard to do, it just makes things a little more complicated. So maybe we should move the run button to... oh no. This thing has like 2 buttons. Trying to remap the controls, you start to see why they are the way they are. Hey, maybe we could remap run to the power button. This game was created for a controller that has 9 buttons, a D-pad, and an analog stick. Trying to cram that onto a system with 6 buttons, a D-pad, and no analog stick, there's gonna be a few compromises. That's not including stuff like start, select, and power, because those don't come up in the actual gameplay. The removal of the analog stick was by far the biggest compromise made with this game. It means you only have 8 degrees of movement rather than 360. They try to compensate by implementing some sort of programming wizardry that smooths out your movement, which works pretty well when you're just running around. But stop for a second and try to understand how this works. This makes lining up the simplest jump feel like solving a Rubik's Cube after a lobotomy. It feels like playing a 3D platform with no analog stick. And before you say, this analog stick does not increase the range of movement to 360 degrees. It's just a less precise way to use the D-pad. These controls work in the same kind of way that a lobotomy works. Most platforming feels fine, especially if you don't have much experience with 3D platformers. That was my case when I first played this game in 2012. I thought I was falling off ledges because I wasn't any good at platforming. Turns out neither is the game. I do still like this game. I don't think it's a bad game at all, but it might draw blood. You know, I'm pretty sure it feeds on the misery of human souls. The D-pad varies on DS and 3DS models, but it's never the most comfortable thing to be spinning your thumb over for an hour or two. This 3DS XL D-pad is much more elevated than this DSi D-pad, and so it feels much more responsive, but it's also a lot more irritating to run your thumb around. Nintendo's solution? Oh yeah, the stupid touchscreen controls. Wait, really? So the original DS had a wrist strap that also worked as a sort of stylus that you strap to your thumb. You can use a normal stylus if you're a super turbo loser who doesn't have access to the advanced technologies of the thumb stylus. I'm no turbo loser, I just lost mine, so I'll use a normal stylus. I don't even have an analogy for this. This is just awful. I could see how you might like this, but it's so awkward trying to use the touchscreen and buttons at the same time without the GigaChad thumb strap. Because your other hand isn't holding the DS up, it's pushing down on it, so you're always about to drop it. Hey, maybe that stupid little thumb thing saves this game's platforming, but I seriously doubt it's a good option for most people. Something else I've seen people complain about in this game is the physics. At first, I didn't really know what this meant, but after running some tests, I think I know what people are talking about. The way that Mario moves in 64 DS is slightly different in almost every way. Here's a few things that contribute to Mario handling differently. Mario has less air control, triple jump timing is different and goes higher, so does the backward somersault. Mario doesn't stick to walls, he crawls faster, he doesn't go forward when punching, and he doesn't get knocked as far back when punching walls. Plus, Mario does this stupid thing in both games where he swings around if you do a 180 at low speeds, which is way worse on the DS. Some of these changes are actually pretty nice, the higher triple jump, the faster crawling, but moving around in the air feels horrible. And for people who have played a decent amount of the original, even the good changes can be pretty jarring. The camera controls are the only element of the controls that I believe this game improved on. This left shoulder button straightens out the camera for you, which is a total lifesaver. But these little arrows really are not fun to use. You have to stop using either the D-pad or the buttons. unless you pull one of these. But you don't really need them if you just use the L button. Going back to the original, the camera is floaty and kinda does what it wants, whereas it feels snappy and responsive on the DS. In summary, Super Mario 64 DS's controls are the reason that many people refuse to play this game today. Of course, some people can put up with them long enough to experience what good this game has to offer, but you can't really blame those who tap out, because the controls can be seriously frustrating. I hope this video didn't feel too similar to my previous videos on the game, but I wanted to make a video dedicated to ripping apart the controls. I've been going way too easy on them. I'd like to do a couple more videos going into different elements that have changed and whether or not they're upgrades or downgrades. Oh, and I'm just about to hit 500 subscribers, so I'll be able to make community posts and do polls and everything like that. It'll be nice to interact with you guys on a daily basis. Anyways, I'll talk to you later. Thanks.